What's an educated mama?
Hello, I'm Ryan Jordan, and welcome to The Educated Mama. During this podcast, we will learn from experts, entrepreneurs, creators, and leaders who are also mothers responsible for all the things. Let's celebrate women, learn a few mom hacks, and discuss the beautiful mess of motherhood. We're all learning together, right? Today's guest is Katherine Wolf. Katherine is a communicator and advocate. She married her husband, Jay, in 2004 and moved to Los Angeles to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. Their son, James, was born in 2007, and 6 months later, Katherine's life nearly ended with a catastrophic stroke. Miraculously, she survived, and she had a miracle baby, John, in 2015. Katherine and Jay have shared their journey of hope through their books and at speaking events, both live and online, before millions. Together, they have founded Hope Heals Camp, a community for families with disabilities like them. Let's meet our guest. Hi, Katherine. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
We're so excited to have you. And I just wanted to tell our listeners a little bit about how we met first. So we met through church and a group of friends. But I remember the first time that I really connected with you was at a baby shower. All of us were pregnant at the same time.
Right, exactly. Caitlin Robertson, I love
it. It was so wonderful. And I remember thinking to myself, who is this dynamic woman carrying this miracle baby? So I would just love for you to tell your story, Katherine, when you were pregnant with your first child, the events that happened, and then leading up to your second child. So I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. Well, it's been kind of a crazy last 12 and a half years as a 26-year-old young mother, newlywed, and with a 6-month baby in tow. I had a massive brainstem stroke out of absolutely nowhere. No warning signs, no previous symptoms, no medical history, nothing. And I had what's called AVM, which is an arterial venous malformation, which is essentially a collection of blood vessels that forms in your brain before you're born, in your mother's womb. I believe I was fearfully and wonderfully made with an AVM, a little, almost like an aneurysm, but way worse, inside my brain. And it grew and grew until I was 26. And then it ruptured and caused a massive brainstem stroke upon rupture. And in order to save my life, the doctors at UCLA, by the way, Ryan, right down the road from you at UCLA, they performed an absolutely miraculous 16-hour microbrain surgery. And in the process, they were able to sustain my life. However, they knew even then that there would be extreme deficits moving forward, that in order to save my life, they had to wound me very deeply, which I think is such a beautiful, beautiful picture of all of our lives and stories, that there is deep wounding in all of our lives. But perhaps that is because there is healing. There is healing happening. Wounding and healing is so one, I believe, and there cannot be healing without there being wounding of some kind. And I'm no exception, that I have extreme disabilities to this day and likely will for life. However, I'm alive, I'm here. I did not die, even though I really, really should have died in surgery. And I should tell you, Ryan, for all your mamas listening, this is such an incredible part of my story, that the doctor in the end who decided to operate on me was actually deeply moved. All the other surgeons had said no, but this renegade surgeon had seen my husband, Jay, my sweet 26-year-old husband, holding my 6-month-old baby in the emergency room. And he just kept staring at them, and he went back to his office. And he just could not get the picture out of his head of this young husband with this little baby. And he said, I've got to give this mom a chance. I've got to try. And I believe that was the Holy Spirit really imparting on him to operate on me and keep me alive. So really, baby James is to thank for me being around today, because truly, had Dr. Gonzalez not operated, I would have died within minutes, actually. In fact, I'm going on and on, Ryan. I'm so sorry.
No, I love this. Continue. It's beautiful. I'm over here.
Oh, you are so sweet. Well, to finish how baby James truly is the star for a while of the show, they think that it is absolutely a miracle that my AVM did not rupture when I was in childbirth with James. I had every reason to have had the AVM rupture while in labor. And of course, they would not have known that I was having a stroke, because I would have been pushing out a baby. So it would have been unclear what had happened. So it's a miracle that James came into the world naturally with no issue 6 months before I had the rupture. Now, to complete this crazy story, if you want me to, I'll share the second motherhood journey that's so cool.
Please.
So I have been living with a little James growing as an extremely disabled mother for years post-stroke. If you could see me right now, I am extremely impaired. I'm in a wheelchair and I have one hand that does not work, and my face is paralyzed on one side, and I'm deaf in one ear and blind in one eye and just severely disabled. And yet, in the fall of 2014, after having 11 surgeries and thousands of hours of physical therapy, speech and swallow therapy, and honestly relearning to do absolutely everything, my doctors all decided that I could become pregnant, which had been a deep desire of mine, and that I could have another child. So in summer 2015, which must have been right before I had seen you, I was able to have a second baby, John Nestor Wolf. And John is currently 5 years old and doing very well. And it is just insane. He is just this miracle that was definitely just such a surprising gift. And obviously, most women in wheelchairs, particularly in previous generations, have not been mothers, been able to childbear and then take care of children. But I think there's actually a growing community of disabled mothers who are child rearing, and it's very beautiful to see. I mean, 20% of the population is disabled, and who would know? It is the largest minority group, both in our country and in the world, and who would know? Because you don't see people with disabilities in the world. So you think it must be a tiny population, but no, it's massive. And there are, especially with technology progressing, younger and younger people surviving, and many of them being women are of childbearing age and do go on to have children. So it's actually a growing population. It's beautiful.
It truly is beautiful. And I've heard your story in church before, pieces of it. I've read it in your book. But to hear you talk about it now and see where your boys are and you are today is just living proof of miracles. And I just want to talk to you about that, because one of the things that I know about you, Katherine, is that your perspective on life is so hopeful. How do you wake up every day, and just go on with the courage that you have and the perspective that you have? How do you do that?
You were so sweet to ask that. So I have very deep faith, and that helps a lot. When you feel just tremendous purpose in your story and joy in your story. It just changes how you feel about your story. So my faith has been super important to me since I was a small child, and only intensified after having the stroke and becoming disabled. At this point, it's extremely hard to see life with any other lens except deep gratitude for what is in my story is huge, a deep and sustaining joy that is not based on outcome, not based on circumstances, but instead based on what I know to be true. So that deeply informs how I am able to get out of bed in the morning, for sure. And yeah, there is just a deep thread of I honestly, service, giving back to other people has been a huge part of not only my healing, but also, I guess you'd call it purpose again. My purpose is when you recognize that your life is about so much more than how you are feeling, but you know the impact you're having on other people, it changes how you view your life. And I cannot say enough about that notion of comforting others with the comfort that you yourself have received. I just think it is such a beautiful truth in scripture, that 2 Corinthians 1. And I love this notion of being able to pour into other people with where you've been. And my husband says it so beautifully. He says, everyone needs to remember the worst place they've ever been in their entire lives. That moment, those situations, those circumstances. Now you go seek those out and tell people they're coming out of that place. And that is what we are all called to do as people, is reach back to where we've been and say, you're coming out too, and pulling people out of the pit, honestly, our whole lives. And that level of reason to go and do, and here's my leg in the picture. I'm sorry. I forgot this is a video. Oh my gosh. I'm just chatting away. So I'm putting my leg up. Sorry.
When
you have that level of recognition that the path that you are lighting and like forging the way through the darkness will in fact illuminate the way somebody else travels, that level of recognition changes your desire to go and live and be. And it definitely transforms sadness in your story, because there is sadness. It's not like I woke up the day after the stroke and was like, this is awesome. I love that my life has been turned upside down. I can't even walk or eat food or hardly do anything. No, it took almost 5 years actually to really wrap my mind around this being my new normal, my new story. But in time, there is a beautiful level of just deep, lasting joy in the fact that I'm here. I'm a big proponent of, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And that if you weren't supposed to be here, you wouldn't be here. So there's a reason. So get busy figuring that out and stop moping about what isn't in your story.
That is just incredible. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. That hits home. I would think for every single person on the planet, that we are all made to do great things. And so that just that constant reminder of you pouring back into a community, and that, you know, the message is bigger than us. Like what are we meant to do in this world? And I just, want to transition into your Hope Heals camp. You're spreading joy to children and families. Can you tell me, how did that come about, and what is Hope Heals camp?
Absolutely. Hope Heals camp is probably the most beautiful offering on earth. It is this amazing entity that my husband and I founded that is a place, a summer camp for free for campers to come if there is someone in the family who is disabled, and to basically have this vacation-like experience. For a week, we have volunteers who come from all over the country, 35 different states actually last year, and serve a medically fragile population of people with disabilities and their family. And we make it magical. Many of the families will tell you it's the best week of their lives, that we bring the spa to the women so nobody has to go anywhere because of all the wheelchairs. And we have special just celebrations, and it's just so incredibly beautiful. And we so see this bizarre freedom happening, that when everybody's got big issues on the outside, when everybody's clearly disabled, and there's wheelchairs, and there's amputees, and there's a kid in the corner talking to himself because he has some behavioral issues, and there's the man who had the stroke and can barely walk in the corner. And when you gather all these people with all these very diverse backgrounds and all these different disabilities and all these stories, you have this bizarre level of freedom. It's crazy because everybody starts baseline, life is not okay. Everybody's really messed up. And when you start there, there's no pretense. There's no pretending like everything's great here, so maybe will be friends. It's no, we're all in the trenches together. Life is hard. It's never going to be perfect. And we can celebrate the moment we have together. So Hope Hills Camp kicks off that way. That's the baseline. So going from there, it's just amazing to watch as people form just deep bonds in such a short time. It's really amazing.
Thank you so much.
You need to come volunteer.
I was sitting here going, wait a minute, is this my volunteer opportunity for next year? Where is it normally? Where does it normally take place?
Come on, we'd love to have you. So if you can believe it, we do it in Northwest Alabama in this glorious space called Camp McDowell. It's this just stunning mountainy spot in good old hot summer Alabama. It's crazy. We have people flying from Oregon and Montana and Michigan to be in New Hampshire, to be in Northwest Alabama in the summertime. It's insane.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredible opportunity. And again, thank you for creating space for people to flourish in. It's wonderful. And I would love to talk about your 2 books that are also super inspiring. Tell me a little bit more about, what you created and how that process was to write these books. I'd just love to know more.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So Hope Heals is our first book, and Hope Heals is really a memoir of what happened, the story of me having the stroke and life post-stroke, and just really our heart, our memoir of our journey. And the second book, Suffer Strong, is really the lessons learned along the way. It's really the heart of how we learned to redefine everything. I think the tagline is Suffer Strong, how to survive anything by redefining everything. Yes, that's it. Takes me a minute. And it's just such a beautiful, freeing idea that somehow the upending of my life, just my terrible upending, led to better living into the upside down kingdom of God. And honestly, how suffering played just a huge role and understanding my place in the world. And I think that's all of our opportunity in suffering. And our book really unpacks that, is how it can actually enable flourishing. And actually, what looks like the very worst that could happen can be this opportunity, and possibilities are endless from suffering.
Let's talk a little bit about suffering strong. I would love to know, in motherhood, what has been one of your biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
Oh, goodness, there's so many challenges in mothering. Anyway, much less mothering with disabilities. And I would say one of the universal feelings that is so hard for all mothers is, how do we narrate the world to our children? It is so important that, many, many, many voices, especially now with the proliferation, or however you say that word, of social media and the news feeds and all the things they're seeing and hearing, that we as parents really re-narrate the world. Actually, your pastor, who's my former pastor, who I love, Drew Sams, says this, that we have the opportunity to re-narrate the world to the world. And I think that is such a beautiful concept in our parenting, that we have the opportunity to re-narrate to our children the world around them. And a mommy that is severely disabled after a massive stroke, it is very, very important for me to re-narrate the world, because they could both be tremendous victims of the story. They had a mommy who nearly died, who's disabled. They're victims. That's what they are. They're just tragic victims, and be sucked into a life of victimizing themselves and never, just truly being destroyed under the weight of hard things. But instead, I 100% love to narrate and re-narrate and re-narrate and narrate to them that God made them to do the hard things in the good story He's writing in their lives. And they are getting to see that in my life, that God is good, that He's writing a good story, and that God's equipped me with everything I need to do the hard thing in that good story, that God has equipped me with a toolbox that I can choose to use or not, of bravery, courage, so many attributes that make me up for this, that could not be utilized. That people can spend their whole life being bitter and living with just resentment and as victims. And instead, what my husband gets to be a part of teaching them, is that everybody has hard things in their story. No one is immune to hard stuff. This may be your hard thing, is that your mom is disabled and can't drive you to soccer practice or volunteer to kick the soccer ball with you. But guess what? Everybody's got hard stuff in their stories, and that's life. And honestly, that is not a message the American mother is teaching to her children these days. We are all doing everything we can to keep our children safe and keep everything sanitized and protect. That's our MO. And in many ways, we should. Being a good mother is doing all of that. But there must be an element in all of that of letting our children recognize that life is hard. There are hard things that will happen in your life, and your life does not have to blow up because hard things are happening.
I love that message. And I think it's really, really important to create children who are resilient and who understand how to overcome challenges and problem solve. And having a mother like you is so inspiring to your boys. I feel like your sons will only be empathetic, kind, loving human beings who are going to be able to roll with those punches through life, because they're living this life right now. And I feel like you are such an inspiration to your boys, all of your boys, your husband too.
Oh, you are so sweet to say that. Well, I hope so. I don't know, but I hope one of the byproducts of my suffering and my story will be that their lives are informed for the better because of it. And I think that is actually true for every mother who feels inadequate because of their shortcomings, which is every woman on earth, every mother. But actually, the shortcomings, the deficits, the issues are actually teaching our children because they're watching our response to them. So it's actually teaching them brilliant lessons about resilience, about overcoming that probably we couldn't teach them otherwise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm inspired. I know all the time when I have screw ups with my kids, I try to announce them because I think it's really important for them to see like, oh, mom, even something as silly as mom put on 2 different socks. Like, why did mom put on 2 different socks? Oops, I made a mistake. Let me go find the right one. Even those little tiny messages, or if I spill something, I don't quickly hide and clean it up. I say, oh, look, oops, mom, even grown-ups spill stuff, and just really reminding our kids that we are all flawed and it's okay. It's okay. We're learning and growing through these experiences together, no matter what the situation is. And we have that ability to, re-narrate our stories. And I take a lot of that away from the conversation. Katherine, thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. I could not agree more. Absolutely. I love that you said, look, mommy put on the wrong socks. Just as little as that. But yes, showing humanity to our children.
It's really important. Yeah. So I want to know, Katherine, you've written 2 books, you're speaking around the world, you've survived, a massive stroke, you've had 2 kids, you've survived a pandemic. I want to know what's next. I imagine something's brewing. What's next?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's always a good question. I always have 10 million ideas. But I don't know. I mean, I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the things happening right now. I'm flying to a speaking event in Oklahoma on Friday, and the following weekend I'll be in Tennessee speaking at a conference, and that's all keeping me pretty busy. And being a mom is keeping me busy, so pretty much everything.
I just want to thank you so much, Katherine, for being such a hope to all of us and an inspiration. And it's got to feel good to travel again and to be out there.
It does. It's so exciting. I'm so glad the world's opening back up.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I really hope that I get to see you soon.
Oh, Ryan, thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and you had some great aha moments. I am so passionate about empowering women, and I can't thank you enough for your support. If you know an inspiring mama or you are an inspiring mama, send them our way. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday, and please like, follow, and subscribe to The Educated Mama. Write a review, leave us a comment, share this podcast with your friends. I'm Ryan Jordan, founder and CEO of Educated Nannies. You got this, mama.